Now the first thing I want us to talk about is XULL's stats. In my opinion, there are only 2 viable stances to go for in XULL, and just if you're curious, these are all the stances you can have. And speed and defense are the 2 main picks for me. Now, if you watch a lot of Snowy, he is the #1 XULL player, and he placed 3rd at BCX 2020. He's really good, and he always recommends that you should be going speed stance because you want to be having that at least 5 movement speed so you can be keeping up with other people that have really fast weapons like bow, katana, sword, whatever, something like that. However, in my opinion, if you're playing 2s or if you're just really comfortable playing against faster weapons, then I would recommend going defense because it takes away dex, and you don't really need dex on XULL because cannon or axe are not going to be feeling the -1 dex, and also you get 9 strength and 6 defense, which is really good. Now, the only caveat is 4 speed. 4 speed is pretty bad in most people's eyes, especially mine. I mean, I'm someone who likes to play high-speed Legends. However, if we load into the game, I'll explain why I think 4 speed on XULL is actually not that bad. I feel like 4 movement speed isn't terrible, because if you have a cannon, you can zip around with Sairs, which is really important because movement speed doesn't just affect grounded movement speed. It also affects aerial movement speed. And since Brawlhalla is played so much in the air, like you have 1 normal jump, 2 aerial jumps, a recovery, and a dodge, movement in the air is extremely important in Brawlhalla, and that's why people say that low speed isn't really good, because you're not going to be able to keep up with other people in the air. However, if you can just zip around with Cannon Sair, I would highly recommend playing defense stance in 2v2. If you don't like it, it's fine, you can always switch back to speed, but the reason why I say play defense in 2v2, or at least try it, is because you have a teammate to cover for your movement speed. Let's say you miss a move, if you have a good teammate, they can always cover you when someone's trying to punish you when you miss that original move. And another thing about movement speed in 2v2 is that if you're flying back from the stage, you have Cannon, Sair, and Nair to get back to the stage as recovery tools, which we'll talk about more later. But especially in 2v2, if you're falling short and you have a good teammate, they can push you back up, they can save you back to stage. So which means that movement speed doesn't matter as much for recovering back to stage. However, generally, I would recommend you go 5 speed if you're not comfortable playing 4 speed, especially in 1v1, because yeah, of course, in 1v1, you don't have a teammate. You're not going to have someone to cover you at all times. You're not going to have someone to save you if you're falling short from the stage. So having that high movement speed, even if you have a cannon where you can move around in the air, is really beneficial, especially if you're not a cannon main. If you're playing XULL for his axe, let's say, it's really, really difficult to combat fast players with only 4 speed. Alright guys, now let's start with XULL's axe Ssigs. XULL Axe Nsig has the highest vertical hitbox in the game. It also is extremely fast and does 28 damage on this 5 defense J. Because of this extremely high hitbox, it can be used to cover most platforms in the game, like the normal ones on Crystal Temple, the small ones on Small Enigma. However, it can't cover the ones on the top of Enigma or the top of Great Hall. However, this small hitbox, not this small hitbox, this huge hitbox can actually nick people at the top of Miami Dome's platforms, and even if this J-One were to jump on this normal-sized platform, I would be able to catch him, which is actually insane. Because of how high this move hits, you can actually use to combat floaty players really well. Even if your opponent is not on the platform and they're just jumping around, usually on Axe, I would say to use Axe D-Light if they're on the platform. However, Axe D-Light, no move in the game actually hits this high. Like I said, it is the highest vertical hitbox in the entire game, so if your opponent is getting hit by D-Lights on the platform and they're really floaty, a lot of times their tendency will be to float around in this mid area and maybe over here if they're lacking stage control. However, you can just Nsig them right there, and basically it makes it so XULL is completely uncounterable from the air. And because of how fast XULL Axe Nsig is, you can actually use it extremely well when stringing out of moves. Let's say you do the true combo, well that's not a true combo, but let's do Dare into D-Light. You can do an Nsig like that to cover a lot of dodges, and if they're on higher healths, a lot of people will like to fast fall or dodge down. Let's say I do this, put him on 50 damage and he dodges down like this. I can do an Nsig to cover that, and that is one of the most common options out of Dare D-Light, which is dodge down. Another really common option is spot dodge out of frontal dare. If you hit the front part of dare, you can't actually get a true combo into D-Light. It's actually 2 frames. Like if I hit the front part of dare like this, you can actually cover a lot of dodges if you just do a frontal dash into reverse Nsig. And actually, oh my god, that killed him? What? In the previous patch, that would not have killed, but because they buffed him for whatever reason, that kills. And if you're a big Axe player, you may know that killing with Axe is kind of hard if you're only hitting sidelights and not Sairs, because sidelight Sair is a pretty inconsistent true combo at later health because you need to hit it super close. To combat this, a lot of people like to do sidelight recovery instead because it covers jumps and dodges. Like let's say I do this will kill it. However, another really good option to cover that is sidelight into Nsig. Since a lot of people don't know about this option, most people won't actually dodge this, and of course if they don't have a dodge, they're going to be spamming jumps, and if they're on lower health, like let's say I put him down to like 110 or something, this will catch that, and it didn't kill him there, but you get the point. And like the other one, you can actually do spot dodge reads by dashing forward. You go like this, sidelight dash forward, and you hold diagonally down so you don't get it. Like if I do like this and get a chase dodge, that's okay too. However, in my opinion, it's better to use a dash so you're not using up your dodge in case you need to use it. So if you do a sidelight, dash forward, reverse Nsig, that covers a lot of dodges. Another good use for XULL Axe Nsig is actually recovering back to stage. It throws out a hitbox while jumping you in the air, so you can actually get a wall touch and cover someone completely when you're coming back to stage. You can also do this if, like, let's say I hit this Jaehyun off stage. As he's coming back to stage, I can actually, like, a lot of Axe players like to come back with a recovery. You can actually come back with an Nsig, which is extremely unexpected, and in my experience, it's really effective. And XULL Axe Nsig can also be used to catch people when returning back to stage. If you're an Axe player, you're going to see a lot of people doing dash jump reverse recoveries and regular recoveries to catch them. And although this is really good, a great mix-up when your opponent is catching onto this is actually to do Nsigs like this. And although you can't slide charge it, going like this off the edge is still really good because some people will actually spot dodge this because they're so afraid of it, and then you can just keep holding it and XULL will still cover the spot dodge. But because you can't slide charge it, if someone is coming down to here, you're probably going to have to do things like this, GC, fall down GC Nsig, which is extremely unexpected. But honestly, at that point, it might be better to just do a dash jump ground pound, because if they have a dodge, they're going to be able to avoid that, because again, it's a GC, so you can't really hold it as much as if you're slide charging it like this, where you can hold it to cover the dodge. And one final use for Axe Nsig that I have that's really effective is jump reads out of Enlight. A lot of Axe players will go for things like this, where they do Enlight into chase or chain dodge D-Light. However, you can also do a thing into Nsig, which is extremely good. And one more thing about Axe Nsig, it's just like a general tip I have. In my opinion, this move is so spammable that I bet you can just win a match using only Nsigs. This move is so safe, you can literally jump out of it before you touch the ground. If you do under platform, you land on top of the platform and you're able to like do things like and dash out of it. And you can even do things like this and miss an Nsig. And like, let's say this Jaehyun is falling from the ground. I miss an Nsig, land on the platform, do a little platform dash dance. Okay, what am I doing? Little platform dash dance into a Sair when he goes under the platform. But yeah, like I was saying, XULL Axe Nsig is so unpunishable. If your opponent is in the air, they probably won't be able to punish it. If you're using it sparingly, they won't be able to punish it. If you're in lower ranks, I bet you can spam this and, like I said, win an entire match using only Nsigs. Especially in 2v2, this move is really, really good. If your opponent has a 45-degree angle signature that sends them at like a diagonal angle, you can use Nsig to follow up, because normally on Axe you don't have a move to be able to follow up from far away. So Nsig is really good in 2v2. Generally, I think Axe Nsig is the best move on XULL's Axe. Honestly, I don't even think that's an opinion. I think that's a fact. I know it's a fact. XULL Axe Nsig has to be the best Axig. Alright guys, excuse my change of skin, but I'm actually recording this on a separate day like I usually do. Anyway, that's completely besides the point. I just couldn't remember what I was originally using. Anyway, let's talk about Axe Ssig. And I'm probably not going to spend too much time on this one like I did with Nsig, because I don't think it's as useful. However, I think it does have one very good use, and well, let's just get right into it. Axe Ssig looks like this. Of course, I'm using Amethyst. Sorry, it's slightly different, but you get the point. It's a charge like Rushdown Sig, just like Cannon Side Sig, which we'll get into later. it has almost no startup frames, and it actually does 30 damage, and it's reversal, so it's really good. For a reversal, it does have quite a bit of force. However, it sends at a 45-degree angle, making it pretty inefficient at killing despite how much force it has. Now, as I said, this move has basically no startup frames. However, the travel speed is fairly low. Although the travel speed just got buffed of this move, I still don't think it's very fast at all, and in higher ranks like Plat to Diamond, this is very easily reactable, so if you try to rush them down, like you do in Silver and Gold, like you see a lot of people do, in those ranks, it won't work in Plat and Diamond. Instead, the best use is as an instant punish. In my opinion, holding the side Ssig very minimally, or literally just tapping it, is extremely good, because it essentially functions like a quick light attack. However, it does have some recovery frames afterwards. Like, this isn't the quickest wake up. If your opponent is floating around, of course you can hit them with Nsigs, but a mix-up is, instead of hitting them out of the air, wait for them to land, and then catch the bad landing with a quick side Ssig like that. And of course, this is a reversal, so there really isn't a position that where you use this and it's pretty disadvantageous, because even if you're like losing stage control, quick reversal, do 30 damage, send them off stage, or even if you do it like facing this way, if they're on red, they're going to be sent all the way over here anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Seeing this move is not very good. It's not like Cannon Side Ssig where you travel a big distance. Axe Side Ssig, it only travels a little bit, so in my opinion, it's not really good for Seeing. However, you can charge it off the stage and off platforms like this. However, again, it's not really that useful because, like I said, it's better used as a light attack, just trying to catch a bad landing by tapping it, in my opinion. Axe Dsig, like Axe Side Ssig, isn't really too good. However, its big strength is that it has a lot of range. Did I turn off damage? Yeah, I did. This Ssig does 26 damage, I believe. Yeah, it does 26 damage and has quite a bit of range, and the recovery frames are quite a bit. However, I'm going to show you a way that you can counteract that right in a second. You can GC this move, so a great way to use this is if you're hopping around, do a quick spot dodge and gravity cancel it into a Dsig. That will catch pretty far away. And just so you know, you can't do it like right up close. Like this doesn't hit stacked like this, but if I move here, it will catch, which is pretty good. But in my opinion, the best way to use Axe Dsig is on the edge like this. Although this move has quite a bit of recovery frames, you can use it to bait people on the edge like this. Dsig into Enlight will stuff a lot of people's recoveries because they're going to try and hit you with their own recovery. After you miss the Dsig, quick Enlight, that will catch. If you do it on the stage, you can do the same bait on stage where you bait with a Dsig, and if they try to jump over you, quick D-Light. If they jump all the way around you, you can do a D-Light in the opposite direction to catch that. One final way to use Dsig is reverse slide charging it, which I think is extremely good. This is almost unpunishable. I mean, okay, not really. If you face a good player and they're ready for this, they will probably punish you. However, if this is the first time you're doing this to them, they probably won't be able to react to it. And even if they do react to it, it's probably pretty weird for them to punish, because in my experience, one of the best ways to avoid being punished is just by falling out of it like that and then trying to recover with general axe, things like that. Alright guys, now let's talk about the Cannon Ssigs. Cannon Nsig, in my opinion, isn't super good, so we're not going to spend too much time on it, just like Axe Side and Dsig. However, it does have some uses, and we'll talk about them in a second. Cannon Nsig has two variants. You either hold it and release it as a trap on the ground, or you just tap it and it will catch them in the air. If you catch them in the air, it will send them at a 45 to like 30-degree angle like that and kill them diagonally off the stage. And if you hold it, it will send them directly forward, which makes it slightly better at killing. And now I just want to talk about the first main uses of this move. It's pretty much just used for stalling on the edge and as a mix-up out of Dsig. Spoiler, again, we'll talk about the Dsig in a second, but Dsig is really good for edge guarding and covering a lot of space. However, if you want to mix it up, you can hold an Nsig like this, and if you don't catch it right away, you can release it and then move away if your opponent is trying to punish your missed bear trap. And another great thing about Nsig on the edge is it's more conditioning than anything. A lot of times, unless you're in silver or gold, this will probably not hit the Nsig itself as a trap. However, your opponent will probably maneuver around it, and you can, you can very easily retract the Nsig and then jump Nair to catch them on the top, jump recovery to catch them out there, or literally jump Sair if you're catching them really early. And one really niche option out of retracting the Nsig is actually dash jump dare. You need to have a super hard read to make this work because it's not the fastest thing ever. However, if you see your opponent hovering in this area, you can retract your Nsig and quickly dash jump dare, and that will probably kill them. Nsig is also pretty good slide charging. If you slide charge an Nsig like this is almost unreactable, and it will cover this entire area like that. Alright guys, now I wanted to talk about what in my opinion is XULL's best Ssig, which is Cannon Side Ssig. Now, it's pretty heavily debated whether this or Cannon Dsig is actually better, and although I agree that Cannon Dsig actually has more utility than Cannon Side Ssig, I think Side Ssig is better just because of how easy it is to hit. This is especially good for newer players. Now, one thing I do see a lot of newer players do is trying to rush people down from across the stage with a Side Ssig, and although this will probably work for lower elos, in higher elos this will definitely not work unless your opponent is literally sleeping. In my opinion, the best way to use a Cannon Side Ssig is either slide charging it off of a platform, because this is pretty unreactable, or using it as a read with GCs or something like that. One of the best ways to read is N-Light into GC Side Ssig, because this will cover every downward dodge, like anything that's not an up dodge or a jump, this will catch. Especially because in dodge is one of the most common dodges, this is a great mix-up. And of course, this can also be used with D-Light Dare, which is your main combo on Cannon. Like I said, you can use it on platforms. You can reverse slide charges to cover literally the whole map. If you do a reverse slide charge Side Ssig, your opponent will try to punish you if they even react to it in the first place. They'll probably do something like bow Side Light or hammer D-Light or hammer N-Light for that matter, anything like that that'll hit grounded. However, since you're slide charging off a platform, if you do it at the right angle, this will actually nick the top of their head and avoid the grounded option. And one thing about Cannon Side Ssig is that if you do want to do a rush down, like chasing them off the stage or chasing them towards them, I would probably recommend to actually hold the Side Ssig until you go all the way off the stage, because let's see, if you let go right here, your opponent will probably be able to punish you. However, if you try to chase them like this and you run all the way off the stage, your opponent will have to chase you all the way out here to even punish you in the first place. Like if they're ready to chase you all the way out there, it probably wasn't a good place to use it, because that means that they were expecting the Side Ssig. If they're not expecting it, there's no way they're going to react to you and chase you all the way out here before you have time to set up an optimal return to stage. And one final use for Cannon Side Ssig is returning back to stage. Now, Cannon Sair is really good for returning back to stage, going like this, like kind of stalling with Sairs and Nairs. However, the only problem that I have with this is that if you're returning back with a Sair, like back onto the stage itself, Sair has very little priority. So if your opponent has like hammer Side Light or a sword N-Light, this will be stuffed out almost every time. And now, although you can say the same thing with GC Side Ssig, coming back with a Sair has less of a fear factor. So in my experience, if I wanted to mix up, usually I go to the wall, like return back to the wall, or come with a jump nair or something to cover my landing on the wall. However, if I want to come up here, you can actually GC Side Ssig, and that will scare a lot of people, and you just hit them with the Side Ssig and completely reverse the edge guard. Alright guys, one more Ssig to go, and that is Cannon Dsig. Now, a lot of people say that this is actually XULL's best Ssig, and it's, in my opinion, again, it's pretty arbitrary. It doesn't really matter whether this or Cannon Side Ssig is better because they're both on the same weapon anyway. Cannon Dsig, you can hold it to release 3 explosions to do 30 damage. I mean, okay, it does 30 damage no matter how you do it, but you can either tap it, hold it a little bit for 2, or hold it all the way for 3. You can also GC it and hold it as a maximum for 2, and of course you can also GC just tap for 1, and if you slide charge it or reverse slide charge it, you can hold it as long as it is as a grounded Ssig. The best use for XULL Dsig is actually how you see most people use it, which is literally just Dsig-ing on the edge. For some reason, people just love to run into this. I'm not sure why. My guess is that most people just don't know how the hitbox works. If you want to see how the hitbox works, here it is. It's like 3 giant explosions like that. And since the player hurtbox is bigger than those little spaces in between, it pretty much is just a giant rectangle. This is a huge hitbox. And you can also use this off the edge too by slide charging it like this. If you send someone really far off stage, like let's say with an N-Light, it'll spike them downwards. And as they're returning back to stage, since they're so far below you, you can slide charge like that and cover the entire wall. Just be careful of doing this, because if your opponent somehow gets above you, they can very easily ground pound you, which is not very good. Of course, this is slide chargeable, so you can do it on the platform too. If your opponent is standing under here and you're on this platform, you can do something like not like that. You can do a dash cancel into a Dsig. You can also do a dash cancel into reverse Dsig as a great mix-up. And one final use that I have for Dsig is actually reading. Now, if you do an N-Light into a chase dodge, not like that, I'm going to talk about that in a second though. Chase dodge, oh my god, I keep messing it up, what the heck? Chase dodge downwards into a Dsig like that, that is actually much safer than doing a GC, and let me show you why. On its own, Cannon Dsig is great for reading because of how much space it covers. However, if you do a GC Dsig like this, again, you can only hold it for a maximum of 2. And this is really bad because if your opponent dodges outwards and they see you burn a dodge, they can very easily just come back and get a huge punish on you, especially if they have something like gauntlets or katars. However, if you do a chase dodge downwards, you can hold it for the full 3 and you'll still have your dodge. You'll still be able to dodge something afterwards, especially because you're on the ground for so long. And since you have 3 explosions at the disposal, this is a lot harder for your opponent to approach you because again, if they dodge outwards, they're going to have to jump all the way around you to avoid the 3 explosions. And since you're on the ground, you can get a quick jump nair like that to cover that when they try to jump over it. And now one final use for the video that I don't really use enough is actually the single burst Dsig. Snowy uses this a lot. If you look up Snowy's tournament sets, he'll get a lot of kills, and just in his experimental and ranked gameplay on his channel, which is in the description by the way, you can do just single Dsig bursts like this to kill, which is really good. Especially GC, this is really good. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being so patient. I mean, I know I said I'd remake this a long time ago for all the people on the XULL Reddit. Sorry for taking so long, but I think this is a perfect opportunity, especially with the new XULL skin coming out, which should already be out by the time I release this. Alright, anyway, I don't want to keep you here any longer. Go out in the world, try XULL, show your stuff, and yeah, when they ask you how you got so good at XULL, link to my channel, man, link to my channel. Alright, see you guys, bye.